Hey everybody, it's Tish here. This is my usual Monday live. This is the Facebook series episode 7. So tonight the subject, it's tonight for me because I'm 3 hours ahead of you. So it's now 6:25 in the UAE. So wherever you are, it's going to be a different time, obviously. So what I'm going to talk about tonight is why we care about what other people think of us and how we can let go of that. But before I do that, if you're watching live, then please type #live. If you're watching on replay, type #replay. And if you're a newbie, if you've never seen me before and you're new to my page, Tish Hawken, self-esteem and inner strength coaching, then please let me know that you're here so I can say hello to you. So it's lovely to be here. Hope everybody's okay, people who normally watch me. So for those of you who don't know, every Monday I come in onto my business page like this and I do a live on a different subject, and the subject is always something to do with what difficulties successful women have when they are in business, but the difficulties are personal difficulties. And so what I do as a self-esteem and inner strength coach is, if there are people who are struggling, successful women who are struggling with personal issues, what I do is I come in and I help them to overcome those struggles so that they can continue on, not only being successful in their businesses or their careers, but also continue in being successful in life as well, which is really, really important, obviously. So let me know that you're here when you arrive, and I'll say hi to you. So I've got a question for you. Are you afraid of what people think about you? Does it scare you? Does it worry you about what people think about you? You would think that for people in business, especially women in business, and especially older women in business as well, depending on what age you are, you'd think that older women in business would be very hardened to what people think of them. You would imagine that they're successful because they don't care what people think about them. You know, it's they've just powered through and they've done what they want to do. But you would be wrong if you thought that, because I come across so many people in the entrepreneurial world who have been established for quite a while, but are still fearful about what certain people think of them. Now, it's not everybody, it depends on your relationship with that person, obviously. Now, normally this starts in our teenage years. So especially as women, and as girls, there's a lot of pressure on us as teenagers to conform, to be like the others. There's a lot of pressure from the media and from social media to be pretty and to be slim and to dress the right way. And so as teenagers, it's really, really common to really worry about what people think about us. But we would think that as we move on into maturity, that we get a little bit more thick-skinned and that we really come into our own, and that it really doesn't matter what people think about us, what decisions we make, what clothes we wear, how we have our hair, etc., etc., what we do with our lives. But as I said, that's not particularly the case. It can go right the way through into your life. It can be a common theme, and it can be a real toxic thing if you want to be successful or you want to continue to be successful. It can be really toxic to allow other people to dictate what you do with your life, because you're so worried about what they're going to think. What will they think if I do this? What will they be talking about me? Will I have any friends? It still is really quite common. And there's, I'm not judging, there's nothing wrong with it, but what this live is about is how to try and eliminate that, because it really can hold us back as successful women. It really, really can. And I'm not immune to it either. Sometimes I like to think that, other people's negative opinions of me sort of wash over me, and most of the time it does. But there are times when people may say something, or I may get a signal that somebody doesn't like something I said or I've done, and then it can really, really sting. And so I started to really research into this, because it's quite a common problem with my clients, especially when they've fallen off track, they're struggling with maybe low self-esteem, low self-belief, and they're trying to get back onto that great road of success, and they've just lost that self-belief, and there's the what ifs that come in. What will people say? What will people think? And so I've researched this, and it's really, really common, and it's really deep rooted in our psyche as to why we're like this. So it's a primal function of ours, and it comes from the idea that there's safety in numbers. So if you go right back to caveman times, when the predators at the time, our enemies, were large animals, so saber-toothed tigers, woolly mammoths, lions, all those big predators that in those days people would have had to be really scared of. Now, if you weren't part of a group of people, a pack of people, if you like, and you were ostracized for something that you did, or maybe you just weren't liked, then the risk was that you'd be thrown out of the group, and then you would be on your own fending for yourself. And so no one wanted to be left behind, in those days, we would imagine. Obviously, we've got no, records of it, but you can imagine that with those kinds of threats, no one would be wanted to be left behind. And so group inclusion, thousands, millions of years ago, was necessary for survival. Now, in today's society, the only real threats we have to us are other people. We're not threatened by animals, because most of us, who are watching this, live in the developed world, in the Western world, so there's no wild animals roaming around. And so that primal idea, that primal belief, that primal function of needing to belong and to be accepted is still with us. It's still with us. And so deep down, if we feel that we are going to be rejected, or we're going to not be accepted, it can cause so much anxiety, so much angst, so much fear. And, at the end of the day, in modern terms, we all want to be liked, right? We all want to be liked, and we all want to be accepted. Nobody wants to upset anybody. And the need for self-acceptance and the fear of not being accepted are very, very powerful. And what I mean by that is, if we feel we're not going to be accepted, it will stop us in our tracks from doing the very things that we want to do, or being the very person that we know we should be. So it's incredibly powerful. That need to be accepted, that need to be, to have people accept us, is incredibly powerful. And our ego feeds on that. So our ego isn't really our authentic self. Our ego is part of us. It's a big part of us. But our ego thrives on approval. It really wants approval. And that's not who we are deep down inside, because who we are deep down inside are our core values, our core beliefs, and who we are authentically meant to be. So remember, when you're worried about what people think, that is your ego taking over, and because it's got a desperate need for approval. So it comes from a mindset of less than. Nobody wants to feel less than. Everybody wants to feel good enough. And so we look to the outside. We look for validation on the outside, that we're good enough for people, that we're accepted by people. Now, as children, obviously this is, it's really important that we get that acceptance and we get that approval, because we don't know any difference. We don't know as children that at that point we can make a choice to feel like we're enough. So as children, it's really important that we're surrounded by people that help us and encourage us to feel like we're enough. Sometimes, unfortunately, that doesn't happen as children, and that can leave us as adults always seeking approval, always seeking acceptance, and really in a state of anxiety if we don't get it. So other people's opinions. Now, I often see on social media quotes about, I'm not going to swear, but, stuff what other people think. And there's another famous quote, lions don't seek the approval of sheep. And all that is, that's okay. You know, we can become quite fierce like that, and, you know, well, it doesn't really matter what people think, I am who I am, etc. And we can get on the defensive like that. However, there's something quite harsh about that, I think. There's something quite negative about that, you know, being very tough-minded like that. And sometimes we have to be tough-minded, but there are other ways to think about this. So when there's other people in your life, or who turn up in your life, that have got something to say about who you are, what you're doing, what you're wearing, how you're behaving, it's important to remember that everybody's entitled to an opinion. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. And I think it's quite important to be able to respect other people's opinions, because if we're looking for respect from others, then it's only fair that we should respect them as well. We should respect what their thoughts are, what their opinions are. But the key word here is opinion, because somebody else's opinion of us is not necessarily a truth. It's not necessarily a belief. It may be their beliefs, but it's not a truth. And so always remember that an opinion is just an opinion. That's all it is. It's just a thought that they've formed in their mind for whatever reason, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it's true. Now, some opinions from other people, they do matter, because sometimes people will give their opinion, whether it's wanted or not, about us, and it could be that it really touches a nerve with us, and that could be for a number of reasons, but one of the reasons might be because there's maybe a little bit of truth in that opinion. So it could be that someone's calling us out on our behaviour. So other people's opinions, I think, need to be digested, and we need to think, hey, is there any truth in this? So say, for instance, I don't know, we're being really harsh with a friend, really harsh, unnecessarily harsh, and somebody calls us out on it and says, look, you know, I think you're being, you know, too tough on that person, or maybe even a child, I don't know. You know, we're being really harsh, and they say, you know, maybe just have a little think about, or I think you're being, you know, it's too much. Well, they could be right, you know, they could be right. And so what I've learned to do over the years is, instead of being really defensive about what people are saying to me, because I was very defensive at one point, I've learned to maybe stop and digest what they're saying and think, actually, is there any truth in this? You know, are they calling me out on my behaviour, or are they just being downright negative towards me? And so sometimes it's worth listening to people's opinions, just in case they're calling you out on something that you think, yeah, I can maybe modify that and do things a little bit better. But the opinions that are really toxic towards us are the ones that are deliberately negative. Now, somebody is not coming from a place of love and positive intention. They're being deliberately negative. Now, if you're having a hard time as a successful woman, if you've struggled with one of life's curveballs, or you are right now, and you're having a hard time, you will know that your resiliency can be knocked, and you then start to question everything about what you're doing, and your self-esteem can be knocked, and then you can start thinking, you know, how am I ever going to get out of this? So when you're in that position, if a person comes along and starts being quite negative towards you, it can really knock us down, and it can be really toxic, and we can start to absorb other people's opinions of us. Now, the people's opinions that we absorb the most are the ones that we love, because we don't want to upset the people we love by the decisions we make. We don't want people to think we're maybe making fools of ourselves. We don't want people sometimes to think we're different from them. If you want to step outside of the normal pigeonhole box that sometimes people put us in, and we really want to step out of that and just be your true self, it can be really scary to do that in the midst of your loved ones, your friends and family, because you're so worried about they may reject us, or they may have a really horrible opinion. But what that does is, if we soak those opinions in, it keeps us small. It keeps us small and stops us from being our true, authentic selves, it stops us from showing our uniqueness in the world. It perpetuates fear and anxiety. So if we start listening and acting upon people's negative opinions, that can snowball, and we can stay small and be scared and be fearful of what other people think as well, not just the loved ones, and think, oh, is there any truth in this? And then not do the very things that we really want to do for fear of judgment. If we hang off other people's opinions as well, and what other people are thinking about us all the time, it can create codependency. So we can begin to value other people's opinions so much other than our own, and trust in our own judgment, that we start to become emotionally dependent on those people and looking for their approval in everything we do. And that can be quite dangerous, because then we can lose ourselves. We can lose who we are separately from our loved ones. And you know, sometimes people can just be downright cruel. There are people who give their opinions and they're negative, and they do it because they love you and they think they're helping you, and they don't want to see you maybe fail or make a fool out of yourself. But there are also obviously the haters, the people who have just formed an opinion. They don't like you, they'll never like you, they may say things to you, they may think them, they may talk behind your back, you know, and those people you probably will never change, no matter how much you try to appease them. So what are the gains of being able to let other people's negative opinions wash over you? So what are the gains for doing that? Well, there's quite a lot. Here's just a few. So think of this. If you've been a person who has been disapproving of yourself for your whole life, looking for validation outside of yourself, looking for validation from other people and acceptance from other people, if you've been doing that your whole life, just imagine how your life would change if you stopped doing that. How would your life change? How would things get better? How would you feel about yourself? How would circumstances change around you? Self-acceptance is the mindset that we are good enough just the way we are. We just are. That's our birthright. I believe that we were born good enough. We don't have to earn it. We don't have to look for it elsewhere. We just are born good enough. End of story. And that is my opinion, for what it's worth. The ideal state of being, to be able to deflect other people's negative opinions, is a state of supreme confidence. Now, I don't know anybody who has supreme confidence in themselves 100% of the time. I know people who have supreme confidence at times, maybe in their jobs, maybe as a mother, maybe as a wife or a lover or a partner, but I don't know anybody who has supreme confidence 100% of the time in all areas of their life. Now that would be the ideal to reach, but I think it's maybe an unattainable ideal. If we learn how to deflect other people's negative opinions, then it will free ourselves from doubt, fear and anxiety, because we can then live our lives being our true, authentic selves, making decisions that are good for us and obviously good for others as well. This isn't just all about us and being selfish. This is obviously taking other people into account. But it means that we can have a very strong and steadfast persona where people who once had maybe walked all over you, or maybe you never had that in your life and you're struggling with an emotional curveball, and now people are starting to take advantage of you because of that. Learning to deflect their negative opinions can help them to realise that you have new boundaries now, and that they cannot affect you with their negative opinions. And having that quiet confidence and having that steely resilience and that steely attitude doesn't require people to become argumentative and defensive and telling people to stop bothering them and stop saying these negative things. It's a way of being, and people will respect you for that. When we do learn how to deflect negative opinions, it really helps you to step into your power, not only as a human being, but as a woman. It helps you to step into that power that you have inside of there, that you used to have as a successful woman, that maybe you lost because of whatever you're going through, and you can find that again. You can step back into that power. It also builds courage and assertiveness. Being able to say to somebody, I appreciate your opinion, but at this moment in time, I'm not going to accept it. It's courageous to say that, especially when you say it to somebody who you've never said it to before, and maybe somebody who thinks or who's thought for most of your life that they can just say whatever they like, whenever they like. So sometimes it takes courage to be able to say that to somebody, that, thank you for your opinion, but at the minute I'm just not going to accept it because it doesn't match up with what I believe. So there's some of the gains of being able to deflect the opinions of others. And I don't want to say not caring about the opinions of others, because that in itself is quite harsh, because I think that's quite disrespectful to other people. But people may respect you more. It helps you with boundaries. It helps you with your own integrity and your own values to be able to deflect that negativity. And it helps you move towards your achievements, because if you're being kept small by absorbing other people's opinions, it's not their opinions that are keeping you small. It's your allowance of letting those opinions affect you. It's about taking responsibility and not allowing them to affect you. So you'll also be less stressed as well, because it won't bother you as much when people do have something negative to say. So I'm going to give you now 8 ways to think differently. I have got a few notes here just so that I don't miss them, because they are important. 8 ways to think differently about other people's negative opinions. So here's the first one. So it's not their life, it's yours. And sometimes when we get sort of quite dependent on other people, the lines can be blurred between how important our life is separately to other people's. And when you really get that this is my life and I'm in charge of my life, and no matter what anybody says, if it doesn't have any validity, I can choose to live my life the way I want to live it. It's your life, not their life. So they may have an opinion on what you're doing, but at the end of the day, it's your decision on how to live your life and how to move forward. The second way is they don't know what's best for you. Now, they may think they know what's best for you. I always say, would you take advice from somebody who's never been in the situation you've been in? I know I wouldn't. If I was having a really hard time and I went to somebody who'd never been through that and asked their advice, that would be futile. So people don't know what's best for you. You have a deep knowing inside of you, whether you believe it or not, that you know what's best for you. Your subconscious mind knows what's best for you. And so whatever they say to you, try and remember that way of thinking. Way number 3 is people's thoughts change all the time. So if somebody said something to you, say yesterday, and it really affected you, you can bet your bottom dollar that today or tomorrow they've forgotten it. You may be left with the impact and the fallout of that if you're at a point where you're absorbing these things. But their thoughts may change. They may think something completely different today, or the next day their opinion may have changed. So people's thoughts change all the time. The next way number 4, is to think life is too short to let people's opinions keep you down. Life is just too short for that. You've only got one life, as we all know. Some people believe in other lives. I understand that and I appreciate that. For me, I've got one life, and so life is too short for me to let people stop me. Now, tell you a little personal story. For those who don't know, I had a 20-year singing career, and I sang for 20 years. Now, there were times over those 20 years when people would say, you know, oh, we think you're really good, and, you know, we really enjoy your singing, etc., etc. But there would be times when people would be really negative towards me, and there would be haters, etc. And there was somebody really, really close to me at that time, who isn't now, who could not understand why I did that for a living, and would say to me, why are you doing that for a living when you've got a young child? Now, at the time, my eldest daughter was a baby, and this person said it to me a few times and was really trying to knock me and make me feel guilty for going out in the evenings, at the weekends, to work, because that's what it was. It was work. I wasn't going out for a social, I was going out to work. And so this person tried to make me feel guilty for leaving my child with my husband at the time so that I went out to work. Now, if I'd have let that person get to me, I would have stopped singing, and the consequences would have been A, I would have been really unhappy, B, I wouldn't have been contributing to the family finances, and C, I would have allowed somebody else to dictate how I was living my life. And so I didn't allow that. Now, it's not to say that it didn't rock me, and it's not to say that things that people have said in the past and even to this day do rock me, because they do. But what it does, it rocks me. And then what I've learned to do, it's a bit like I wobble like that, and then I learn to stand straight again, and, you know, to say, okay, that's their opinion, but it's not going to stop me from doing what I want to do, if that makes sense. So the next way is, people don't care. Most people, I'm talking about the people who aren't your family now, or loved ones. People don't care as much as you think they do. So if you're an online entrepreneur like I am, and you're putting yourself out there on social media, and maybe you're a successful entrepreneur, you've never been online, and you're trying to create an online business, and you know you've got to start doing Facebook Lives and putting yourself out there, and you think, I can't do it because what will people think of me? What will people think of me? In all honesty, people don't really care. I'm going to swear now, they don't give a shit. They don't. They may look and think, oh, you know, what's she doing? What's she up to? And some people might think, wow, I wish I had her confidence, you know, or whatnot. People don't really care. And if they do, it's a fleeting thought and it's gone. And so just remember that, you know, they just don't really care. Also, it's impossible to please everybody. When we are worrying about what other people think about us, we are in effect indirectly trying to please them, and it's impossible to please everybody. We just cannot do it. It's, you know, it's totally impossible. And so no matter what we do, there will always be somebody who doesn't like what you're doing, who is unkind about what you're doing. And on the other hand, there are always going to be people who are going to be your supporters and your encouragers. So keep that in mind when you're trying to think of ways of thinking of how not to let other people's negative opinions affect you. Remember that way too. The next way is, if somebody is negative towards you, it's normally about them and not about you. It's normally about what they're feeling inside that they are projecting onto you. So it could be that they are feeling quite jealous. Hi Joe, hi. Thank you. It could be that they're feeling jealous of you. It could be that they're just generally unhappy. It could be they're having a bad day. There could be so many reasons why somebody's got a negative opinion about you, but it's hardly ever about you. It's about them. It's about what they're feeling and what they're thinking. And another way to think about this is think about the cost. What is it costing you to absorb the negativity of other people's opinions? Like I mentioned before, it's keeping you small. It's keeping you small and stopping you from stepping into that power that you have, not only as a person, but as a woman. It's keeping you small. It's stopping you from achieving what you want to achieve, not only in your business, but in your life as well. And one thing you can do is practice deflection. Now, this is just an exercise that I created myself. And what I do, if somebody is negative towards me, I imagine that I have a steel sort of pillar that curves around me, and that whenever somebody comes at me with negativity, it's like an arrow and it bounces off the steel pillar and flies right back. And it's just an image that I created in my mind to help me build my resiliency when I was building resilience, to help me not to absorb other people's negativity. Now, sometimes the arrows do get through, I'm not going to lie to you, but as I mentioned before, when they do get through, they only knock me for a short while. I have a pity party for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, maybe 15, and then I deflect it back, and then I get back on track with how I'm thinking. So there are 8 ways of how to think differently when people are being negative towards you, when trying to handle negative opinions. I'll just recap on them. It's not their life, it's your life. It's down to you and you're responsible for that. They don't know what's best for you, you know what's best for you. Number 3 is people's thoughts change constantly. They're always changing. So what they thought yesterday about you might change today or might change tomorrow. Their thoughts can be quite fleeting. Number 4 is life is too short to worry about what people are thinking about you. Number 5 is they don't care as much as you think they do. And I'm talking about acquaintances, people on social media, not your friends and your loved ones. They don't really care as much as you think they do. So we get ourselves all worried about what we're going to say, what we're going to do on social media. People don't really care. They not as much as you think they do anyway. The next one is it's impossible to please everybody. You just can't do it. So don't waste your valuable energy and your valuable time on trying to please everybody all of the time. The next one, it's normally about them and not you. And then the last one is think about what it's costing you to continue absorbing the negative energy. So I hope somebody got some value from that. If you've got any comments or questions, please do let me know in the box below, or you can private message me as well. If anybody would like more information about what I teach, how I help female entrepreneurs to overcome their personal curveballs whilst they're running their businesses or their successful careers, you can contact me by going through tishhawken.com. You can contact me through this business page. I've also got a group that you can join. It's a free group, no obligation. It's called Grit School, where I go in there every day with advice, with tips, and I interact, do some lives as well, to help those people who are just trying to get back on track after life has knocked them down. So if you'd like to join that group, you can put in the comments, group please. If you think somebody might benefit from this video, then please do share it in their page, in their groups, or you can tag them in it as well. It's been an absolute pleasure. I'll be back next Monday evening here on my business page with another Facebook Live for you with some more tips and advice and discussion and hopefully inspirational chat. Thanks for joining me. Take care, everybody. Bye.